what's up, guys, and welcome to LP Tremors, where we talk all things violent and horror. Joined again by the one and only Peter Jones. What's going on?
Hello.
How's it going?
Great to be here. I'm doing well. Hope you're well.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So, given this is the 8th episode of this ongoing Iron Maiden series that we're doing, we have Iron Maiden, No Prayer for the Dying, coming out in 1990. And given that it came out in 1990, this is the start of a brand new decade. And I thought it would be cool, or we thought it would be cool, to just share with you guys a quick little album ranking of the 80s catalog, just so you guys can kind of catch up where we're at. So, with that being said, Peter, rank your 80s albums.
Excellent. So we're going to go from the lowest ranking to the highest. So this is a recap of the episodes we've done to bring you up to date till today.
Yeah.
In the 7th position, I have Somewhere in Time in an 8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Then Peace of Mind at an 8.5 out of 10. I had originally done the debut at 8.5, but you know me, I can't have two of them with the same one. So I'm going to move that up to 8.75.
Great.
So that is the next. Then it jumps to Power Slave at 9.25 out of 10. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son at 9.5. Number of the Beast at 9.75. And my top ranked favorite Maiden album is Killers, and I have that as my 10 out of 10.
Awesome. All right.
My rank.
Yeah. Can't really argue with that list. I mean, if you watched our, discussions of the 80s albums, we pretty much made it a point that pretty much all of these albums are great. So if I was going to get into my, 80s rankings, my least favorite coming in 8 out of 10 is Killers. 8.5 out of 10, I got Iron Maiden. 8.8 out of 10, I have Number of the Beast. Let me see, 9 out of 10, Power Slave. Top 3, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, 9.25 out of 10. Somewhere in Time, coming 9.75 out of 10. And 10 out of 10, and it has been for a while, Peace of Mind, my favorite Iron Maiden record.
Excellent.
Awesome. But we are not here to discuss any of those records. We are here to discuss No Prayer for the Dying, coming out in 1990, the beginning of the brand new decade. And now we're going back to lineup changes. Adrian Smith has left the band, shortly after, the Made in England thing, the whole Seventh Son tour. He left the band right after that tour, mainly because he was just not comfortable where the band was going. He wanted to focus on his own thing for a little bit. And now in comes previous Gillan guitarist, and also he was the guitarist for Tattooed Millionaire, the solo record Bruce Dickinson came out. And here comes in Janek Gers. Janek Gers is currently in the band as we speak till this day, and he is now known as a major asset in the band's lineup. So yeah, in comes in Janek Gers, and Adrian Smith leaves. So with Janek Gers, you have Bruce Dickinson on vocals as always. You have Steve Harris on bass, Dave Murray and Janek Gers on guitar, and Nico McBrain on drums. Martin Birch is back behind the production table. He is producing this record once again, and he will be producing Fear of the Dark, and that's the last we will be hearing of Martin. But more on that later. Let's get into No Prayer for the Dying from 1990. Peter, want to take it away?
Thank you. This reached number 2 in the UK charts. And they actually had a number 1 single in one of the songs that we'll get to as we go through.
Yep.
But you're right. Something's changed. And again, it's another member of the band. Yep. A small production note. This is their first album that was actually recorded in England since Number of the Beast. Mm-hmm. And they decided, well, maybe they were kind of forced to, but they recorded at a barn on Steve Harris's property that he had turned into a studio. And Bruce Dickinson never one to mince words. Just said it pretty simply. It was shit. It was shit. It was a shit sounding record, and I wish we hadn't done it that way. At the time, I was as guilty as anyone else, going, "Oh, great. Look, we're all covered in straw. What a laugh." Now, there's a lot different here, not only in personnel, but this is a new decade, as we said, but this is a very, very different record.
Oh, yeah.
Lyrics
Absolutely.
and the topics are different, no longer literary or historical. They're kind of more topical or relevant events. The songs are a lot shorter. There really isn't an epic on this one.
Not really, no.
And it is significant because it's the last Iron Maiden to reach gold status in the United States. When we go to the first track, we'll just start here with Tail Gunner at 4:13. And this is a Harrison Dickinson piece. It starts promising. It's got a strong riff, lots of energy. But it doesn't take long to discover that Bruce is singing in a different style here.
Oh, yeah.
Gone are the sweeping and soaring melodies and operatic power that he has brought to all of the previous records that he's been on. This has transformed, or mutated is the word I'll use, to something completely different. The verses are driving, but it's really not saying anything. And we've talked a lot about the opening tracks on previous records, how they just grabbed us lyrically, and we were just right in the game with them right off the bat. The choruses are a little bit better, but it's not that much of improvement. They have a nice tight unison section, followed by a solo section, and first Dave and then Yannick. However, the solos are kind of unforgettable right from the first song. And that is also a departure, especially with Adrian. And I'm not dismissing Dave at all, because I love Dave a ton. But there's something about Adrian's solos that had a sense of melody, or the contributions were more than just a series of notes. They were kind of a separate part that kind of make those songs really work. Right. But the band accompaniment is good, and I like what they're doing underneath. And this is going to be a common thread as I get through, that if they would have just taken the solo out, I would have preferred if they were playing underneath. The unison section again is nice, and they go to their final verse, and it's got a lot, like I said, it's got a lot of energy, and it kind of pushes right straight through. But the conclusion I come with off of that first track is I go, what the hell happened to Bruce?
Yeah.
More on that later. The number 2, Holy Smoke, at 3:47, which is Steve and Bruce. First, a side note, the video on this is a piece of crap. It's just junk. I watch it and it's just laughable, compared to how clever and fun the early videos were. Right. Not a good way to start off. To me, the opening riff just sounds kind of cornball and cheesy. I didn't know any other words to use. It just doesn't sound like Maiden.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I can only presume that it was written about TV evangelists. Jim and Tammy Faye Baker is probably the closest I would say that meets the lyrics. The song seems just kind of weak and insignificant in comparison to songs that were on previous records. There's really no melody to be found anywhere. And Bruce is, not only has he changed his color in the character of his voice, he's pushing so hard, almost forcing too much air out. And it's just causing these, I don't sense a tone or a tonality. And a lot of these things don't even really have any pitch in them. It's just words. The chorus is just awful. Holy smoke, man, for the flavor of the town. I'm like, stop. Where are these soaring lines that we're used to in these choruses? And they repeat the verse, they repeat the chorus, and then they replay the opening riff into a solo section. Again, the solos on this are not good. Back to a chorus verse, nothing improves here. And I put in my notes as I was going through it chronologically, might be the worst track of their entire catalog to date.
Wow.
I can't
Holy
think
shit.
I can't think of any song on their previous 7 albums that I would ever take off to have this replace it.
Okay.
And I'm like, I said,
Okay.
how did this follow Seventh Son? 3, No Prayer for the Dying, 422, Steve Harris. The intro's nice, but Nico's drum part's kind of lifeless. It's doesn't do anything. It certainly doesn't sound like it's Nico. It could be anybody. Bruce comes in, and while there is melody there, he's still singing such a harsh, aggressive style that it's and this is a painful word, but it's almost offensive. It's just so unpleasant.
Okay.
The verses are written well, but the vocals are kind of burning it to the ground. And when he says lines like "never feeling the pain," you can just "never feeling the pain." You're just like, oh, it's that way you expect that from a much lesser singer than someone of Bruce's caliber. Back to the intro riff. I love the guitar melody. It's nice. And in this case, the melody is better than what's going on underneath, which is a reverse from what was happening earlier in the album. Nice tempo change, but it really doesn't go anywhere. The solo section, in this case, is more interesting than the solos itself. Another nice time change. The punches are really nice. But there's a lot of guitar diving and pitch bending and whammy stuff going over the top, which kind of covers it up.
Yeah.
Bruce returns, and it sounds like he's gargling razor blades through this. It's just poorly written. Nothing sticks here, and it's just kind of forgettable stuff for me.
Okay.
Public Enema #1, 413, Dave Murray and Bruce.
Yep.
This is the closest track that may have some connection to Seventh Son, in my opinion. It's a nice opening dual harmony section. Harris is driving, but Nico's really, again, not doing anything too exciting, especially in comparison to the things that he was doing on Seventh Son, where he was just all over the place.
Yeah.
Verse is okay. The material is here, but Bruce is screeching his way through it. The chorus is better. And he finally sings a little bit. And it's so refreshing because you notice it so instantaneously. The difference between the color of his voice and how he's delivering it. And all of a sudden you're like, but kind of doesn't last long. Back to the verse, back to the same chorus. Although Nico starts to play some things underneath that are more interesting. One of the better solo sections of the album, great backing tracks. It's creative with a nice change of pace and a good memorable solo from Dave. I enjoyed what he was doing on that. And then the last verse, I said, everything that can turn people off to Bruce's voice is on full display here. Those who have critiques of him and say, oh, I can't listen to him because of the X, Y, and Z, are all right here.
Right.
And again, what happened? And the chorus just starts to hit a repetition phase, and now we're just starting to rehash things.
Yeah.
Fate's Warning for '09, again, Dave Murray. And now with Steve, one of 3 tracks that's never been played live. A nice Dave Murray intro, which we've all gotten used to from the tracks that Dave writes. It's very familiar by this stage of his career. We would recognize it even without seeing the credits. It's probably a Dave song, which is nice.
Yeah.
Heavy opening riff. I love what Nico's doing. He's just thundering away. And then I go, what? Wait a second. Bruce is actually singing. And I was like, it was like this wave of relief. And you're like, wow, it's so refreshing. Well, at least he was until you get to the second half and he reverts back to what he'd been doing. And I said, nah, now this isn't fair. I said, now he's teasing us. Good, awful, good, awful. I said, not fair. You shouldn't be doing this. It's a well-written chorus. I like how it's composed, but Bruce is just killing it. And I do not mean in a good way. I love the bridge. I love the solo section. Backing tracks are strong. And they return to this beautiful dual harmony section, which sounds really great. Love it. And I go, that sounds like Maiden. Strong solos. I said, this was a nice track. And I really enjoyed that one, the way it came off.
Awesome. Yeah.
Number 6, The Assassin, 416, one of the only standalones by Harris. Typical Maiden introduction. It's a strong intro, lots of syncopated parts.
Yeah.
And on this, Bruce is very dark and kind of evil on this. And he still has those elements of the raspiness, but with the context of the theme of the song and the riffs that were written, it kind of works for me. And I do love the backing tracks, and I love how the guitars are interplaying between each other. You really get a nice duality between the two players. But then you get to the chorus and you hear, better watch out. And I'm like, not exactly a Maiden-esque kind of chorus.
No.
I'm like, more endless repetition. Better watch out. Better watch out. You're like, oh, okay. But the breakdown at the end of that, Assassin, love that part.
Yeah.
And then it feels to the solo section. It's nice, but it kind of doesn't fit with the first part, which has kind of become a small concern with some of the Harris tracks, that sections aren't lining up as cohesively as they did earlier in their career.
Right.
They move up to an up-tempo section for Yannick's solo. It's, again, nothing that makes me go, oh, pay attention. I mean, it was there. And next verse, I just love that. And I love the second half of each verse where the guitar adds that second interplay, like I mentioned. The chorus and out, even though the chorus is not typically what I would like, one of the stronger tracks. And, I think it's got elements in it that do grow on you.
Yeah.
And that you can kind of latch onto and feel better about. Definitely versus some of the other ones that I've mentioned.
Sure.
Number 7, Run Silent, Run Deep, 434, Harris and Dickinson again.
Yeah.
The second of the 3 tracks that have never been played live. I love the gentle introduction, and then it just explodes into this really great, powerful riff. And Bruce is really strong here. And even though he is still raspy, it works much better with this music. The chorus is better. At least you get the sense he's singing.
Yeah.
The lyrics aren't that great, but he's singing. The verse, still heavy and chunky, great drumming from Nico. Another chorus, which is great. You get to the solo section and the backing tracks are just amazing.
Right.
They're so exciting and intricate and interesting. And the first solo is okay. The second solo is better. And then they just do these again. Once they return to the dual harmonies, they really do stand out.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I think there aren't nearly as many of them on this record. Seventh Son probably had maybe the most dual leads as they'd had on many of their previous records. So it really comes across as familiar territory where you feel like you're stepping on something firm going, okay, all right, this is Maiden. I'm okay.
Right.
You get to the last verse and Bruce is starting to push a bit. It's not as clean as the first 2 verses, and then they just all of a sudden out of nowhere just completely slow down, and Bruce does this basically. There's a chordal accompaniment to it, but he just sings that chorus out, and you're like, see, you can do it, and you're like, cool. Yeah. And you're like, okay, well, that ended on a positive note. And you're like, that was nice.
Right.
8, Hooks in You, 406. And this is a contribution from Adrian because he had started in pre-production.
Okay. Yeah.
But then he was out. This is the only thing that carried over. This intro sounds like it could have come from either of their first 2 records. It's got a very nice retro feel to it.
Yeah.
But the verses and the choruses are awful. Bruce isn't remotely singing. The underlying riff is great, but wishing the singing rose to what they were playing and could match it. The chorus is just endlessly repeated.
Hooks in you, hooks in
Hooks.
me.
Yeah. I just said, stop it. The solo section is strong. And again, nice dual work here. They play really well together. Again, they go back to the intro section. Sounds great, but quickly falls off when Bruce comes back in. And I put on this time the chorus. I said, look, I'm ready to confess anything after this in torture. I just endured. I did it. I know where it's hidden. It's my fault. I'm just like, just stop. Number 9, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, 442 from Bruce, which was a tune that he had earlier and brought back into the band.
Right.
And this is short and sweet, but you know me, I don't pull any punches, Tyler. I go, is this even Iron Maiden? and I go, now clearly this may be my least favorite Maiden song. I go, Bruce is awful. Okay. The solos are awful. The lyrics are awful. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat to death.
Let her go, let her go, let her go.
I mean, if he was actually singing those, they might have been better delivered.
Right.
And then, of course, I was slightly premature. We get the final song, Mother Russia, 530 by Steve Harris. Last of the 3 songs never to be played live, to which I will say, thank God nobody had to sit and listen to this live. Horrible introduction. The full band has their accents and punches. And if they had done it all together, it may have had more power and been well received. It just seems, kind of thin. Na 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 na. If the whole band had gone da da da, and then they da 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 da,
right.
It would have had more impact. It would have had a bigger, but no. And then the rest of the intro is a formula that is going to haunt Maiden tracks for many albums to come.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The hi-hat. Okay, we'll get there when we get there.
Right.
The melody, and I use that very loosely here, is dreadful. The drum beat does absolutely nothing to help this riff. The instrumental section goes nowhere. The only really great part is when the keyboard comes in and adds the color on top of it. And I'm like, well, that was good. Had a nice flair to it. It had a nice sonic difference to it, which I had a nice element. And then they get into this middle section, da, ba, ba, and I'm like, you just lifted that right off of the title track of Seventh Son, which you did just the previous record.
Right.
I mean, it's almost, they're so similar. It's ridiculous. I said so much for originality.
Yeah.
The solo section is disjointed and has no real groove to it. And then they even use the exact same syncopation that they did on the Seventh Son song. And you're like, oh, really?
Come on.
I can just go listen to that instead.
Yeah.
And then and this is the part that just really threw me. This is maybe the worst transition. All of a sudden they're in that, and all of a sudden they're back right to the verse. And you're like, how did we get here? I mean, there was nothing to bring them together. So I came up with what I call some baseline conclusions here, Tyler. Bruce sounds awful. Without any hesitation, by far, this is his least favorite vocal performance of anything he's done with Maiden. More screaming and raspy shouting than his operatic smoothness that we were used to.
Yeah.
I said, for the first time, he actually kind of sounds small, where before he always seemed huge and grandiose and way bigger than the track.
Right.
And I didn't really think that could be possible of a singer who can sing with his kind of capabilities.
Right.
The album, while still somewhat decent sonically, sounds like it was recorded in a barn. There's not a lot of life to it. No shimmer or sparkle that grabs your attention. Like the comments we made on previous records, especially the previous one. And again, we're not talking about an album that's so far removed from this. This is 2 years. And the rest of the time they were on tour. So it's not like they just disappeared.
Right.
Did the album, toured and started writing and did a new record.
Sure.
Lyrics aren't nearly as thought-provoking and oftentimes they're kind of juvenile and infantile. The progressive direction of Seventh Son, and you were so articulate and so on in describing Seventh Son as a progressive record.
Yeah. Right.
Those elements are long gone.
Oh, yeah.
They are not here. While attempting to maybe strip down and go more straightforward, like the first two records, they failed miserably here.
Yeah.
While there are great dual harmonies, a couple good vocal melodies and some tight riffing, but not nearly as what I'm accustomed to. I'll just speak for me. That I'm accustomed to and expect from my Maiden records.
Right.
And there's just kind of a lackluster presence to it, not these enormous soundscapes and dynamics that were present on their previous records.
Yeah.
My track rankings, the first little part is easy, and then the rest you can kind of just shovel all together. I have Fate's Warning at number 1.
Wow. Okay.
Assassin at 2. Tail Gunner at 3. Run Silent, Run Deep at 4. Public Enema number 1 at 5. No Prayer for the Dying at 6. Hooks in You at 7. Mother Russia at 8. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter at 9. And Holy Smoke at 10.
Wow. Okay.
My lowest ranked album up to this, I believe, was an 8 out of 10 was my lowest ranking.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, somewhere in time.
Yeah.
After the first 4 tracks on here, I got almost nothing. So there are 10 tracks, and all I did was count how many tracks I thought were listenable and usable, and that was 4 of them. This is a 4 out of 10 for me.
4 out of 10. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah. This is not an album
Jesus.
I'm going to revisit.
Wow. Did you always feel that way, or do you
Yes.
remember your thoughts when it first came out?
No, this is exactly how I felt when I bought it.
Holy shit. Okay. Yeah. No Prayer for the Dying from 1990. This is a tacky record. This is a very cheesy record. This is record is extremely flawed, and this record is a pile of shit. But God damn it. But God damn it, this album is so freaking fun. I honestly thoroughly enjoy listening to this record. It definitely is a major drop off coming right after Seventh Son. I'm not going to put this record, nearly in competition with any of the 80s records. But like, if I was to rank this record, it would probably be somewhere in the middle. But it's just enjoyment. I just have an absolute blast. I laugh at all of the flaws. I'm telling you, get your buddies together, have a couple of beers, put this record on, and you are going to laugh your ass off. Make fun of this record. This album is just a nonstop riot.
So this is more from a sadistic standpoint.
I would say so. I would absolutely say so. You just laugh your ass off at the flaws. It's just like watching a B horror movie. It sucks. And like if you follow me on the Friday the 13th series, there are definitely a lot of movies in that series where you really just can't take seriously. You have to just laugh your ass off at all the flaws. This album is very reminiscent to that. So that is exactly why I have an absolute blast with this record. But yeah, let me get into some of the tracks here. We have Tail Gunner, and I have to say, Tail Gunner is actually one of my favorite tracks off this record. And not from a laughing standpoint. I actually really thoroughly enjoyed this track. I think Steve Harris knocks it out of the park as always with this track. He comes in with that opening bass riff. He has this really cool groove to his bass tone. Really, really cool stuff. But then once Bruce becomes Bruce and he sings, this first verse, you can definitely hear that vocal change. He does sound like he's straining, but for some reason, I feel like on this track, it actually works. And I think he sounds really good. Like, I love that pre-chorus. Run into the sky, never wondering why.
Right.
He sounds really, really good on that pre-chorus. And then he goes
singing.
back to Tail Gunner. Yeah, he sounds like Bruce. Bruce sounds like Bruce, like in that little pre-chorus. And the rest of the track goes. Peter, you mentioned the solos, which are just very unmemorable. I think on this particular track, it's really not a great solo, but I think it's passable. I'm not really like, oh my god, come on, let's go, get to the fucking verse or whatever.
Right.
But the solo, it's a very passable solo. I don't mind the solo at all. Just not too memorable. But the track keeps going. It really doesn't change at all. Passable solo. Bruce is kind of doing that dark and broody voice. Then that pre-chorus kind of takes you up. All in all, I do really like this track, and I think it's a very fine opener. Then we get to Holy Smoke, track 2. Peter, I really can't disagree with you at all with all the points you made about this track, but this is actually my favorite track off of this record. Just because it's just a riot.
Is this your drinking game song?
This is my drinking game song. It has to be. Like, this is just, I can't, every time this song plays, I just can't stop laughing. And you mentioned the video absolutely sucks. It's so freaking cheesy, but god damn it, it's so funny. It's so freaking funny. And that the rest of the track, it's really no exception. It goes right in line with that video. Overly cheesy lyrics. This is probably some of the worst songwriting to ever be featured on an Iron Maiden record. The lyrics are absolutely friggin' batshit crazy. So friggin' cheesy, so simplistic. I actually really like the riff that goes along with this track. I don't really find it too annoying, but it's like, well, it is a little annoying, but I do like that riff. It's kind of like a little bit of harmonizing riff. Do 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 do. Like, it's a little annoying. It does get very tedious, but for some reason, that riff actually does work for me very well. But yeah, Bruce is just he sounds like absolute shit off this track. Like, he doesn't sound like Bruce at all. If you would have told me, oh, this is a different singer, I would have definitely believed you, because Bruce definitely does not sound like the Bruce we all know and love out of the 80s records and post reunion. Right. But yeah, he sounds like absolute shit. I really like, and this is a very small portion off this track, but I really like the pinch harmonics, leading up to the solo. Like, it kind of goes into that. I don't know. It's very small, but I think it's cool. But if you listen to this track, you definitely know what I'm talking about. It's really cool pinch harmonics, but the solo just sucks. The solo is very just wash away. It's very filler. Nothing going on with the solo. But all in all, this track, again, get your buddies together, grab some beers, and you are just going to have a freaking laughing riot with this track. Put on the video, might as well, while you're at it. Fuck it. But yeah, overall, this is just a very cheesy track. Peter, I really can't disagree with you because everything you said was absolutely accurate. But this song just I can't stop laughing. I love this track.
It's
And that is
therapy
what
for you. It's therapy at this point.
it's therapy. Yeah, exactly. And that is why it is my favorite track off this record. Awesome stuff. Then you get into No Prayer for the Dying. And then I really love the harmonies off of No Prayer. I love, it kicks off with this beautiful guitar harmony between Janik and David. I really, really like that guitar harmony. And that harmony kind of goes along with the rest of the track. But Bruce sounds awful on this track. He really, really sounds like he's struggling here. Voice is very, very strained. Again, and he's really trying to hit those high notes, but those something's going. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's burnt out or if he was trying to do this on purpose, trying to get another edge to his voice. I don't know what was going on in his head, but he does not sound good at all with this track. And this track, I see what it wanted to do. It really wanted to be this beautiful track, this very harmonizing track, almost borderline epic, but it just did not work that way at all. And I do love this track. I do actually really, really enjoy this track, but the flaws are really, really coming out here. But overall, I mentioned the melodies, great melodies throughout. Solos just feel very lifeless. Again, going along with the solos are just non-existent off this, pretty much this entire record. This is really no exception. Solos are very lifeless. But when it, and it goes along with like halfway through the track, it goes along with this like very, very melodic portion. Like it's probably like a 2-3 minute melodic portion. And then the song really, really picks up, going along with the bridge. And I have to say, when it really picks up, I think it really, really works off this track. Steve Harris is going at 90 miles per hour as he did in the 80s records. Steve Harris is my main MVP off this track for sure. I do really like what Nico is doing. Nico is doing something very interesting in his drum kit. He's doing this really cool thing with the hi-hat, I notice. All in all, Nico does do a very solid performance when the song really picks up. But Bruce just doesn't sound right at all. Going along, really no surprise with what we already heard with this record. And yeah, that's pretty much No Prayer. I think it really tried to go into that, epic realm, but it just didn't work. And that's mainly because of Bruce, I would say. Bruce he just does not sound good at all. Again, I don't know if that was on purpose. He was trying to do another edge to his voice, or he's really actually genuinely struggling. I can't tell. But there you go. That's a little bit of No Prayer. Still a very solid track. It's actually pretty high up on my track list rankings, but all in all, I do like this track a lot. Public Enema number 1. And this track is it's okay. It's not, again, it's like, it can come off a little bit as filler. I feel like the verse is very tedious a little bit. I hate the backing track behind, Bruce's vocals. It just doesn't, something about that riff just rubs me the wrong way. Bruce is sounding very strenuous as he did in the previous tracks. And I don't know, this track is just kind of there. It is very aggressive. It's very, very heavy. Probably one of the heaviest tracks off this record. But all in all, it's just kind of a whatever track. One thing I will point out about this track, though, I do love the pre-chorus or the chorus. It's not really clear on whether this is a pre-chorus or a chorus. But when it goes into that, it's a very melodic portion. It goes, fall on your knees today.
Right.
The world. Bruce sounds actually really good in that little portion. Which is kind of making me believe that he's doing the strenuous vocal style on purpose. Because his voice is still there on, moments of this record. Like mainly in like those little chorus portions, or he does sound like Bruce. When he sings, he actually sings like, okay, this is Seventh Son Bruce. This is Power Slave Bruce. This is the Bruce I know and love. But it makes me believe that this was on purpose. I don't know.
It has to.
Bruce, yeah, I feel like Bruce is just experimenting with something and it just isn't working here. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but his voice is shining here and there. So that makes me think that, this is on purpose. But yeah, that's a little bit of Public Enema. I just feel like this is kind of a filler track, but there are some moments on this track that I actually really like a lot. And then, and speaking of filler, and Peter, I know you kind of praise this track a little bit. Fates Warning. I do like this track. But again, same thing with Public Enema. It just comes off a little bit of a filler. I really, really hate the intro to Fates Warning. I just feel like the intro, it tries to be kind of like a melodic, moody type of thing or type of feel. It just doesn't work. I just find it very, very messy. They don't really know, what they want to do with this intro. That intro doesn't last very long. The riff, it's a very passable riff. Again, it's a fine riff. It's just not memorable to me. Not really much to say here. I think it's fun. It's definitely a fun track, but another track just kind of comes and goes. It's just very unmemorable to me. It's a passable track. And then we get to Assassin, another one of my favorite tracks off this record. Again,
we agree.
The lyrics, they are laughable. They are so freaking laughable. Better watch out, 'cause I'm the assassin. Better
watch out.
It sounds so freaking laughable. It's not even funny. But I do love the menacing tone off of the verse and intro. Almost reminds me of something that could have came off Seventh Son, actually. It has this very like eerie, atmospheric intro, very menacing, very suspenseful. Definitely almost reminds me of, an intro that could have came off Seventh Son easily.
I agree.
Yeah. So I really, really like that portion of this track. And Bruce's vocals, this is one of the instances where I think Bruce's strenuous vocal style works, because this track is really going for that menacing, eerie type of sound, that very suspenseful sound. And right. I think Bruce, adding that very strenuous vocal style really works with, what's going on behind him. So yeah, that's a little thing with Assassin. So Bruce's vocals definitely work. One thing I got with the chorus, and this is definitely not a bad thing. Well, the chorus is very, very cheesy, but what I'm about to say isn't a bad thing, but it sounds like they're doing a sort of Judas Priest type of thing with that chorus. They're doing that very gangish vocals. It sounds like something that could have came off British Steel.
Right.
It has that very fast, menacing, dark riff. And then better watch out, because that sounds like something like that could have came off British Steel or Screaming for Vengeance or something like that. But that's nothing. This chorus on paper, it kind of sucks. And so this isn't really, talking shit about Judas Priest, but I just kind of got like a Judas Priest flair from that chorus. Those gang vocals, that riff that goes along with it. It's a little something interesting I picked up there, but overall, this is a very fun track. I enjoy Assassin quite a bit. Lyrics are just laughable, and this track. It's just, again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but get your buddies together, grab some beers, they're gonna have a blast. But yeah, there you go. That's Assassin, and then Run Silent, Run Deep, and this is another track that I can kind of live without. It is I really like the riff. It's a very, very dark, menacing riff that goes along with this track. The intro, one thing I wrote down in my notes for Run Silent, Run Deep, this is getting very repetitive. The 4 or 5 tracks that came before this all are trying to have this very melodic intro, and then song picks up. Very melodic intro, song picks up. This is no exception. So now we're just getting very wash, rinse, repeat a little bit. But when the song picks up, it does really pick up. I already mentioned a dark, menacing, brooding riff. Very, very menacing. Chorus is kind of okay. It's passable. But overall, I didn't really get a whole lot from this track, to be honest. There are a couple solos that are on Run Silent, Running Deep that I actually do really appreciate. The solos on this track actually work. And one thing I wrote down in my notes is this is the Maiden solos I'm missing, because especially that second solo, I think really, really shines. And it is a very, very memorable solo. I think I really like the chord progressions. I really like the groove. But all in all, this is a track, again, same thing with Fate's Warning, same thing with Public Enema. Track for me, personally, that just kind of comes and goes. Passable, but filler for the most part. And then you have Hooks in You. Oh my God. Wow. The riff is very catchy. I will give the song that. It's a very catchy, punchy type of riff. I mentioned the lyrics in Holy Smoke and Assassin. Oh my God. This is wow. Those tracks are like Edgar Allan Poe compared to this track. Wow. Wow.
This ranks somewhere near Big Bottoms or
oh yeah.
Something
Easily.
From Spinal Tap.
Oh, absolutely.
Sex
100%.
Farm Woman.
Oh, absolutely. Could have easily came off the Spinal Tap movie. But oh my God, those lyrics. Wow. Now, if you really want to laugh your ass off at a song, Hooks in You is the song, God damn it. The chorus is so freaking annoying. The chorus is just hooks in you, hooks in me. It's so laughable. Again, you're gonna laugh your ass off with this track. This track sucks. It is so flawed throughout this track, but God damn it, it's so fun. It's so laughable. Oh my God. Like you can't even pay attention to anything else going on in the track because the lyrics are just so fucked up. They're just such a mess, wildly tacky, so cheesy. I can't believe this is an Iron Maiden song. I can't believe this is an Iron Maiden song. Like wow. Just that's the only word I can really describe this track. Wow. That's a little bit of Hooks in You. There's nothing really going on. It's such a cheesy track.
Do you think Adrian's proud to have his name on it?
God, no. There's no wonder why he left. There's really no wonder why he left.
Yeah, I wouldn't think he would be.
Yeah, I can't see him being proud of slapping his name onto this stuff. But oh God, yeah, Hooks in You. It's so oh wow. Like moving on because there's nothing else I can really add. Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. Yeah, this is something.
Bring it, man.
Tell you, I don't. This track is just. It sucks. It just sucks. There's nothing else I can really put here. It sucks. It's laughable. It's so freaking hilarious. It's a laughing riot. You can't take this seriously. Lyrics are so bad. Bruce sounds disgusting. It tries to be intimidating, but it's really just you're just laughing your ass off. It tries to get back into that menacing tone, that dark, eerie, menacing tone, but it's just hilarious. It's just yeah.
It's almost like the most non-metal person you know trying to be the most metal person you know.
Exactly.
It's so unnatural and so forced.
Yeah. And I think the main issue with this track is Bruce Dickinson himself. Not only are the lyrics bad, honey, it's getting close to midnight. And all the myths are still in terror. It just sounds yeah, exactly. Like it's laughable. It's just so laughable. It's so fun. It's hilarious. The song is a piece of shit, but god damn it, it's so hilarious. I don't know how I don't know how this is an Iron Maiden track. I don't know how the majority of these songs are Iron Maiden songs. It's just so fun. It's so fun. But yeah, there's really nothing to add. It's something you just have to experience for yourself. It's something. It's something. Then we get into the last track, Mother Russia.
Should I keep going?
I don't know if I'm sorry. Is this Iron Maiden or the soundtrack to Pirates of the Caribbean?
Right.
Like it's like it has this like pirate edge to it that it's just so freaking terrible. Bruce is like doing this. I hate Bruce's tone on this track or the vocals he's trying to portray. Mother Russia. No. Like, what are we doing here? What like this song is just a pile of shit. Like this track, you can't even like I mentioned throughout pretty much all these tracks that get your buddies together, have some drinks, laugh your ass off. This song, it's not even enjoyable in that aspect. It's just bad.
Oh no, that's double whammy.
Bad. Yeah, it's the riff is so terrible. It's wildly annoying. It's overly cheesy, but in the worst way possible. All in all, the song is just annoying. There's no redeemable qualities. And I mean, if you look at the Iron Maiden catalog of the 80s, you have fantastic closers. Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Alexander the Great, To Tame a Land, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Like the list goes on and on.
The
Mother Russia. You're gonna end this album with Mother Russia. Fucking A, dude. Wow.
They taunt my ass.
Yes. But yeah, as I mentioned, no redeemable qualities. This track can royally go fuck itself. I hate this track. But there you go. That is my full review of No Prayer for the Dying. And if I was going to get into my track list ranking, I'm going from favorite to least favorite. Okay. My favorite being Holy Smoke, No Prayer for the Dying at 2, Tail Gunner at 3, The Assassin at 4, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter at 5, just because of comedy relief. Public Enema #1 at 6, Run Silent, Run Deep at 7, Face Warning at 8, Hooks and You at 9, and Mother Russia at 10. That track can royally go fuck itself. But if I was going to get into a rating, so realistically, on paper, this album can easily be a 3 out of 10, or Peter, as you mentioned, 4 out of 10. I really can't argue with that. I have to give this album a 6 out of 10, just because there's some really, really bad portions off this record. This record is extremely flawed, extremely tacky, but God damn it, it's a laughing riot, and that is why I'm putting it at a 6 out of 10. A lot of it is just comedy relief for me. There you go. So that is our full review of No Prayer for the Dying. My rating, 6 out of 10. Peter is a 4 out of 10. If you have a true passionate love for the 80s records, you might be a little sorely disappointed. But hey, if you give it a chance, you might love it, you might hate it. Let us know in the comments your thoughts. Peter, is there anything going on in your end outside of this series?
Staying busy, shows coming, and just again being thankful for the grace of others that asked me to help participate as you have done, and I'm always super grateful for that. And as again, just check the links down below and go to all these people's pages and bring your friends and like and subscribe. And these people all do it. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, but they have passions for it, and they do it because they enjoy hearing the counter. Nobody wants to do this just to hear people agree with us.
Right.
That's boring.
Very, very.
And it's hearing people say, well, I don't hear it the same way, and not disrespecting them because of it, but going, there may be some validity to that. Maybe let me go back and rethink and rediscover and see if I agree or don't agree. And it's okay if you don't, because nothing in the world is going to change. Nobody's going to get hurt or anything. So
no. Why not?
Check the links down below and visit everybody's pages and leave comments with us too, because I love reading the comments.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So. Copy and paste everything Peter just mentioned. Yeah. Check the description down below. A bunch of channels of our peers are linked in the description below. So check that out, and definitely let us know in the comments your thoughts on No Prayer for the Dying. We'd love to read them. Now, you are watching LP Tremors, and tell you the truth, not a whole lot that I'm planning as of right now. I do have the Friday the 13th series with my buddies Ryan Gavalier and Davey Gallagher. That's still going on. We're going to be reviewing Freddy versus Jason, I believe in sometime next week or so, or this week, depending on how our schedules pan out. The Iron Maiden series that me and Peter are doing, right now, as you are watching. We're going to be reviewing Fear of the Dark from 1992, coming out next week. So be sure to stay tuned if you are an Iron Maiden fan. But other than that, up the irons and stay metal, stay scared. Bye, guys.